And we're going to share. Okay, now we're going to group 2. And what I'm going to do is like we did before, I'm just going to go through them. There are 103.
Okay.
Okay, now we're going to go for the scoring.
Okay, and I'm apologizing in advance because there's some great images here. It's gonna be tough.
Grapevines,
Out.
extraordinary Latin,
In.
insulation,
In.
taking a run COVID,
In.
Turtle Riviera,
Out.
Milky Splash,
Out.
Wild Caladium,
In.
Boys Stopping Fighting, Boys Stop Fighting,
In.
Color Explosion,
In.
Monroe Township Flower Bed Dahlia.
In. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Inside Out,
In.
Suspended Glass Bubbles,
Out.
Zoom Blur in Black and White,
Out.
Time passes waiting for COVID to end,
Out.
Freshly Washed,
Out.
Cornflower Up Close, Black and White, Coneflower,
In.
Hibiscus Hawaiian,
Out.
The Bangkok Butcher,
In.
Unusual Friends,
In.
Rose of Sharon,
Out.
Hallway afternoon golden glow.
Out.
Young lovers.
In.
Broad walk shadows.
Out.
Pink flowers from New Zealand.
Out.
Lace cap hydrangea.
Out.
Neither snow nor rain nor dark of night.
In.
Thirsty on a hot day.
In.
Holy church.
Out.
Through the archway.
In.
Moon strings.
In.
Parasol shadows.
In.
Dandelion center.
In.
New Zealand sailing.
Out.
Firefighters pride.
In.
Kid with kite.
In.
Impatience New Guinea.
In.
A nice day.
Out.
Carefully sprinkle on the cheese.
Out.
Oh, there's the ocean.
In.
Waffles and wings.
Out.
Balanced.
In.
What's for dinner?
In.
Beauty from behind.
In.
A walk on the dunes.
In.
Japanese flower cherry tree at night.
Out.
Dark corridor.
Out.
Heron looking at a friend.
Out.
Street chalk artist.
In.
Two cherubs too.
Out.
Chapel.
In.
Cell block.
In.
Feather-shaped frond.
In.
Ships in port.
In.
Shoe shopkeeper.
In.
Old presses.
In.
Benediction.
In.
Magician and observer.
In.
Solemn prayer.
Out.
Lost in thought.
Out.
Crusty homemade bread.
In.
The Americana.
Out.
Threatening crow.
In.
Flower power.
Out.
Out for a stroll.
In.
Breakfast.
Out.
The guardian of my home.
Out.
Graceful in flight.
In.
One in front.
Out.
Please enter.
In.
Lunching in Palm Beach.
In.
Red-tailed hawk.
Out.
Buddha temple monk.
In.
Scenic route.
Out.
Random thoughts.
In.
Sitting out the snowstorm.
In.
This water is cold.
In.
Skylight view.
In.
Prayer shawls.
Out.
Cardinal in the cold.
In.
One room schoolhouse near the farm.
In.
Shower control center.
Out.
Sukkah,
In.
where do we go from here? Black and white.
Out.
Captree Island,
Out.
a peaceful stroll.
Out.
Happy in her new hat.
In.
Pure happiness.
In.
Smokers pollution.
In.
Relaxing at the beach.
In.
Reaching upward.
Out.
Vintage train station.
Out.
Storm ready.
In.
Cloudy sunrise.
In.
Funnel cakes and corn dogs.
Out.
Raoul's.
In.
Rope on a dock.
In.
Night train.
Out.
Men at work.
In.
A face in the crowd.
In.
Shinnecock warrior.
Out.
Mop and bucket.
In.
Charleston church.
In.
Fractured perspective.
Out.
Okay. Well, we got down to 61 for the next round.
Yeah, and I apologize to the 42 I did out because it's, I hate doing that. It's like, oh, I don't like your image. It's not the case. It's just, you have to evaluate them, kind of with the others. But anyway, again, my apologies. Let's go.
Okay, round 2. Extraordinary lantern.
I like this. To me, it's not a lantern. It's again, it's an abstract. And I'm not, and what's cool about it is I have no clue what's going on here. You've got these halos, you've got what looks like a lantern, and it looks like you bent the pole, but maybe you didn't, or maybe that's just the way it is. I have no idea, but whatever it is, it's really neatly done. Good idea to make this black and white. Love the tonality of it. I give this a 9.
Installation.
I love the mountains in this. I just love, they're just so simple. Usually when you think of mountains, they're like, there's a lot of stuff going on. They're all different shapes and so on, but this almost looks like somebody built this. I think in this image, if you cropped some of the sky out, it might be helpful. And the other thing that would really make this image just so powerful would be to make it a very high contrast image. Really, really not just set your white point and black point, but try to minimize even the amount of gray tone in there and just have it all be about the white snow and the black of the rock that's showing through. And then maybe, darken the sky a little bit to add some drama to this image. But compositionally, it's really neat. The scene is really neat. But yeah, I think it needs more contrast and it needs a crop, but it's interesting concept here. Give this a 7.
Taking a run, COVID.
So this would just be an image of a guy running if it wasn't for the curve. It is just really, when you look all around the scene, there's a guy running and everything is very busy in this image. You've got these trees, you got the poles, you got the house, you got all this stuff going on, and you got this guy running, but you've got this like ordering device with this curve that just sort of leads you right to the guy. You caught him at the exact right moment where that curve just leads you right to him. So it's almost like a way of saying like, yeah, I know this image is busy, but I'm going to give you a way to navigate the image. And I think that is, a very, very, well done thing. I think maybe a little more contrast and maybe a tiny bit more saturation in this image might help it. Might even be kind of interesting to see what it looks like in black and white, but I think in color is really going to be probably better. But anyway, nicely done. I give this an 8.
Wild caladium, part of my pronunciation.
Yeah, it's okay. I wouldn't do any better. I like this. I mean, I was going back and forth in the in and out, and when I saw it, it's like, in one sense, I think this image needs a little work, but I think as an initial composition, you've got it right. And yeah, I don't know what it looks like unprocessed, whether you can make that work. But even as is, I think you've got something really going on here that's really neat. I mean, you've got that red spot in the middle, or brown spot, whatever, uh, in the exact right spot, in the way it's all these diagonal lines just sort of leading into it for the. I think that works really well. I think where this could use some work is you have some burned out highlights. Whereas, yeah, again, I know this is an abstract and everything, but I think if they weren't so bright, I think it would really, really draw the attention into the center of the image, much, much better. But and then also, it looks like you've got some focus issues up at the top. And again, with an image like this, you could probably play with that, with sharpening, and using some denoising and stuff like that. You could probably recover a good point of that, a good part of that, particularly in the fact that this is somewhat of an abstract, manipulated image. But yeah, nicely done. Give it a 7.
Boys, stop fighting.
I like this, and I don't know if this is somebody's mistake. Like, oh man, I had my shutter speed at a 30th of a second or 15th of a second, and I should have been at like 1/2000th, or whether you intentionally did this. And if you did, kudos to you for not like taking the typical bear shot. But whatever it ended up, this is a really, happy accident or intentional, is just a really neat image, because it really is. It goes past just being about these two bears and just working it into the realm of art. And I think it's nicely done. What I would do in an image like this is, there's a bit of a halo around the bears, and I would accentuate that a little bit more, just to separate them from the background, and maybe even lightening that background altogether might really bring your attention to the bears. And I think it would really, really not only do that, but also the design of the image as well. But well done. Give us an 8.
Color explosion.
Neat shot. I mean, it's like so interesting. I mean, I love the title, really says it all. I mean, this guy has just got it. And just this amazing outfit, and the way you photographed it just really works so well with all these colors. And then right, in the middle of this thing is this guy, and the look on his face is just wonderful. It really is. The only thing I would recommend with this is to bring out his eyes a little bit more, because he's, when you have people with dark skin, their eyes are also dark. So you kind of want to keep their eye from blending into the skin tones. And I think this would really, really stand out, because the thing that really does this image is the emotion that he is showing. And it's just so wonderful. So if you just lightened it around the eyes a little bit, maybe we could see his eyebrows a little bit more, and so on. I think this image would be super strong. It already is, but it's really well done, well conceived, and you caught this like perfect moment. Give this an 8.
Monroe Township flower bed dahlia.
Okay, we know where it was made. Nice image. I mean, I like the fact that you chose a black background on this. It really makes it just a flower, and it doesn't matter if it was Monroe Township or Monrovia or somewhere else, because it's really just about this flower. And I think it's really nice. When you do this to an image, though, if you notice, like the top part is like really in focus, and the bottom part, particularly the petals that are closer to the camera, are kind of soft. So this image would have done well with either more of a depth of field if you could have stopped down a little bit more, or even using focus stacking to kind of get this all sharp. Because when you isolate something like this against a background that has no detail, then everything really needs to be sharp to really make the image work. But all in all, neat concept. You got great light on the flower and so on, and just really, you caught it a nice in its life cycle. You caught the flower at a nice time. Give it a 7.
Inside out.
I like this. It's one of these like kind of moments, whereas whereas you're kind of being a peeping Tom. So after you're done with this, you may want to look into getting some therapy for that. But it's just really a neat thing where you just got this guy tasting whatever it is he's working on, and you just caught that moment. You got him framed perfectly. And if this is a conceptualized shot, you did a really good job. If you actually set this up, you did a really good job of making it look like it's not set up. And if you didn't set it up, you caught a great moment. It's like one of these like sort of decisive moment things. I do kind of wish, you kind of have it processed in a way that looks sort of painterly, which I think works. But it would be neat if there's just a little bit more detail in the guy's face and his head, just to kind of see that. But all in all, it's really, really a minor thing because this is a really wonderful image. I give this an 8.
Cone flower up close, black and white.
Anytime anybody photographs a flower in black and white, they got to get some kind of kudos for that. And yeah, really nicely done. I think you almost got your depth of field perfect on this. It looks to me like some of those little things in the front are just a little bit soft, and I would like them to have been a little bit sharper. But I like the focus falling off in the background, and I like it falling off in the foreground. It's just if your depth of field was just a little bit moved forward a bit more, I think it would be even better. But it's a really, really, really nice image, and kudos to anybody who does black and white floral stuff. Give this a 7.
The Bangkok butcher.
It's a neat kind of street scene, and funny thing is like the thing that really attracted my attention was 2 things. One was that the hatchet is moving, and so it got a blur to it, so it shows action, but yet everything else about the guy is completely still. And the other thing that really, to me, balances this image out, believe it or not, is the fan in the background. It kind of mimics the shape of the guy's head, even the round thing, that kind of cutting table that the guy's cutting the meat on. It kind of really sort of adds to the symmetry of the whole image. But nicely done. Nice moment, caught at a great time. Your shutter speed was just right to show some kind of action, but not not so much that it's the whole guy is a little blurry. So nicely done. Give this an 8.
Unusual friends.
Hang on, let me just do one thing with this. Okay, this is a great moment. This is a great moment of street photography. So there's 2 things that you did right in this image. It was a lot of things you did right, but the thing is that, a lot of people do street photography are so shy about it that they don't figure out how to set up the shot. But you got down at the level of these guys, so that you either kneeled down or you were sitting or something like that. And you got that, and you got this moment, the guy with the beret, he's, he's looking at the other guy who's kind of looking away, and it's like, well, what's, going on? But he's like making some kind of point, and he's really happy about that. And I really like that. And it's one of those things where, this image is so strong that, normally I'd say, well, his guy with the beret, his leg on the right is a little too close to the edge. But in all reality, I don't really even pay attention to anything except the expressions on these 2 men's faces. And just with this, again, skin tone, I don't know if there's a Cuba shot or whatever, but it's just really, really, I like this image a lot. I like the moment that you've got here. Give this a 9.
Young lovers.
So this, there might be some judges who don't like this because it's kind of cut off, but I think to me, it's just this really neat image. I mean, yeah, it's almost like if you saw all of the guy and all of the woman's head with the hair and everything, I don't think this image would be as good. I just think it's kind of a nicely designed image and really nicely caught. I love the fact that the window's pointing in, that they're in there. I love that red thing, whatever it is above their head. And, you know, even like the angle of the top piece, the way you cropped the top of the window that created a little triangle. I just think this is a nicely conceived image. Give us a 9.
Neither snow nor rain nor dark of night.
So, you know, this is like, you know, anybody who has ever had issues with the Postal Service, and I used to have a company that did a lot of direct mail, so I have a lot of issues with the Postal Service. But this is sort of this is that opinion right there, and I think you caught this moment really well. The only thing with this is I wish, and what I would recommend you doing this is taking a picture of the United States Postal Service logo on the side of a truck, and then add it into this image because it's a little soft. The guy's nice and sharp, which is really cool, and you've got that great expression. And he looks like he's asleep, but I think he's probably just like looking at something. And but you know, it kind of makes its point. But I think if the United States Postal Service logo was in sharp focus, it would really make this image just absolutely wonderfully powerful. But still, great job. Give this an 8.
Thirsty on a hot day.
Yeah, I like this. It's a moment. I mean, it's nice. You know, I mean, kids are always great subjects in photography, and but you know what you got here is you really just focused on her face and the fact that she's drinking from this thing. You only just barely see just enough of the cup to know what she's doing, and you know, and then you know, you've got the straw going into her mouth, which actually acts as a nice leading line that leads into her face. And then, you know, again, we've got that kind of reverse triangle I talked about before, where you've got the eyes and the mouth making one triangle, but her nose is a reverse triangle. So it makes a nice scene, and it's nicely done. With this image, I think because the light is so kind of even on this, I think a bit more contrast would work really well. And I like that it's like her skin tones are muted, but maybe add a little saturation into her eyes and her lips. Not a lot, just a teeny tiny bit. And then the other thing I would do is there's a little red thing on the top of the cup here. And let me see if I can. Okay, I'm not. All right, I'm not able to use the annotation, but oh, here we go. I always forget about this, but you know, there's this little right there. I would clone that out, um, and then I think, you know, those little things would really turn this image into something super awesome. It really already is. So give this an 8.
Through the archway.
I like this a lot. I mean, it's just sort of the archway is really cool. I don't know where this is, but I'd love to see it. Um, but I like it. It looks like it's really neat stonework and everything, and whatever it is, it's really well designed and built. But you caught it really neat. And I think the idea with this, the concept of having the people in there, and I don't know if the lighting was like this or whether you muted it that way, or you know, made it sort of like a selective color on the people and made this everything else kind of sepia. I don't really know, and I don't really care. I just like it. I like the way it looks. Um, I think this is really, really cool. Give us an 8.
Moon strings.
So I like this, you know, with abstracts, again, there's got to be a point to it, and there's got to be a composition. And this abstract is very busy, and it's almost too busy, but just you know, again, I don't know what went into this image. I just have to look at the result. But I think the way you controlled the visual flow of this makes the busyness work. If there was one more line in this image, it would probably be too much. But it works really well because if you wherever your eye goes in this image, it catches onto a line that leads you throughout the image. Every one of these lines kind of sort of connect to each other, and Yeah, it works really well. I like the, I like the coloring and everything. So nicely done. Give this an 8.
Carousel shadows.
Uh, nicely seen. I like the shadows. I like it, it just creates this really neat pattern, and just really nicely done. Um, there there are some looks like some sharpening halos in the if you look the wooden parts of the umbrella. I There's a way of fixing that, and I can, if you use Photoshop and somebody contacts me after this, I can kind of walk them through how to do that. But yeah, that's like the only little. I mean, that's kind of a technical flaw in this, and I wish it wasn't there because I could give it a higher score. But it's yeah, conceptually, it's really nice. Give us an 8.
Dandelion center.
I like this. I mean, it's one of these shots that people do, and you gotta, you gotta like look at it like it's not something that everybody does. And but I think this is really nicely done because um, you've got just enough sharpness in the detail of these seed thingies uh, to really make that stand out. But you've also got the blurriness around it. Where if this thing was sharp throughout, I don't think this image would be as strong. But I like this. I like the coloring. I like the processing. I like the fact that you made it a square. And I like that the symmetry's there where you've got like the center right in the center, as opposed to pushing it off center like we're supposedly trained in composition, never center anything. But this works really well. This is a really nicely done photograph. I give this a 9.
Firefighter's pride.
Um, I like this. It's so simple. It's like a still life. And the thing is what really gets me is the handles on the top. It's like, I don't know if you moved those handles or whether, you would have gotten yelled at for moving the handles. I don't know if those things were connected to anything. But I really like this because, it has an antique feel to it, but yet, the idea of it being firefighter's pride is that it really works. I mean, somebody really worked this to make this nice and, keep the brass nice and as shiny as possible, even though there's a nice patine on it. And then you've got these nice little effects where the highlights, where there's pinpoints, you see the little starburst on there, which is, from your small aperture. And I think that really kind of is a neat little kind of effect that you've added this image. It just pushes it over the edge. And it's just a really simple, nice composition and nicely processed, nicely everything about it. Give this a 9.
Kid with kite.
This is just one of these like wow images. I mean, it's just so perfect. Uh, the symmetry of it, the fact that you can't see the kid. He's like the every kid. It could be any kid, anybody's kid. And then you got that drama in the sky with the clouds and everything, and that just really just nicely done. I mean, it's just it's just one of those images that just sort of brings you into it. And if it was hanging on the wall in a gallery, I'd probably like spend 10 minutes looking at it. It's just so wonderfully done. Give this a 9.
Impatience, New Guinea.
Um, it's funny, when you say like where the image was made, because when I look at these, it's really about the flowers and they could be impatiens plants anywhere. New Jersey, New Guinea, doesn't really matter because it's just about the flower. But thanks for letting us know where it was made. And but it's neat. It's this nice splotchiness of color, and it really sort of is like making the way it's processed. It's making its transition from just being a floral to being somewhat of a busy but nicely handled image. With the processing, and you've got the blues and the pinks and the yellows. It's like a really nice color balance going on here. So it's really nicely done. Give it an 8.
Oh, there's the ocean.
I love this. There's really, I mean, it's a nicely conceived image. because you've got that arrow pointing right at the ocean. And obviously you knew that's exactly what you were going for with this. Um, I kind of think with this, there's just a little bit too much blue sky. And I think what I would have done is I would have maybe taken out some of that blue so that the arrow was like right at right at pointing like maybe to here, where you're pointing right at this little tiny cloud here. And then I think that would have made this image a little stronger. And I probably would have cloned out just because it's the ocean and you don't normally see the ocean with those swimmers, little buoys things that divide out the swimming area. I think I would have taken them out. They're kind of a distracting element. I think if they weren't there, this would really be kind of a cool, simple image, because the green of the umbrella is the same color as the green of the ocean. So but yeah, really, really nicely conceived image. I'll give this an 8.
Balanced.
I like this a lot. I like that you've got it balanced on the knife, and I don't know, how you actually put this whole thing together like this, but it's nicely done. I do kind of wish the composition was a little bit different, because you've got a lot of black in the background and it's right in the center of the image. And it's kind of like it's negative space works in an image like this, but I think if the piece of bread on the right was tilted a little bit more at an angle, it would have turned that negative space and more into a triangle, so that it was like almost resting right on that on the edge of the knife blade. And I think this would be I think it would be a much better composition. So bake another loaf and do it again, and then send the loaf to me, because I love homemade bread. I give this a 7.
What's for dinner?
Nice. It's kind of a very busy street shot, but what really works in this is the guy's expression. It really is, he's like kind of looking there like, okay, what do I want? And, so it's not just a scene of someone. And then you've got this sort of other guy, who's like doing the serving, the young guy with the t-shirt on. He's just kind of indifferent to what's going on with this guy looking at stuff. So there's like a nice moment created here. So it's really kind of well done. It's kind of looks white balance wise. I mean, your shooting looks like under fluorescent light. That's always tough, but I think the white balance could be a little better here on this. Because the skin tones of both the subjects here look a little too orangey. So either play with that or even try going black and white with this image. I think this might actually be a nicer image in black and white. Give this a 7.
Beauty from behind.
Nicely done. And this is another one of those images where the lighter vignetting is, again, not something I ever do. I don't really, normally I don't like it, but it works with this image. And I'm not exactly sure what it does, but it keeps me in the image, because I like the flow of it. I like how your eye kind of goes into the stem and then kind of wanders out into the petals. It's really not, it's nicely done. And even that little kind of orangey negative space in the upper right, the whole thing kind of just works really nicely. Give this an 8.
A walk on the dunes.
I like this a lot. I just wish, it's got a feel of being, kind of this solemn, quiet place, but yet there's like a million footprints. So in one sense, that might have been what you were going for with this. I think for me, the mood would have been nicer if, I don't know. I mean, if you have the time, clone out some or all of the footprints, because it's kind of like there's a mixed message here, and maybe that's your point. But to me, it adds a little bit of confusion. However, what I really like about this image is, you've got those tire tracks and the woman's walking right between them. So they are the leading line that takes you right. I'm actually not sure if that's a woman or not, but it looks like a woman to me. But it just really just takes you right to the person. And then that cloud that's sort of going up into the sky like that at a diagonal. It's kind of that helps. I mean, that cloud couldn't have been in a better spot. Yeah, nicely done. I give this a 7.
Street chalk artist.
This is really kind of neat. You know, it's like you really caught a moment here. And whereas I kind of wish there was a little bit more of the artist, I really, now that I'm looking at it more, I kind of think you made a good choice not to have more of her in the picture. But it's like, you know, here she's like looking at her, you know, like at what she's basing this art on, and then she's drawing it. And then it's all about that art and, you know, and her working on it like that. I just think it's really just a really neat scene. Give this a 9.
Chapel.
Just a really nice modern thing. I mean, modern setup. I mean, yeah, it's kind of a furniture slash architectural shop, but really, when you look at the composition, it's, to me, it's more of just sort of an abstract work. I mean, it's nicely, the symmetry is really nice on it. You got, you know, nice stuff going on in the center and everything. It's really just nicely done. You know, just minor nitpick would be, you know, you see how this, you see part of this little, like, I guess that's an arm, you know, armrest. And here it's just, it's not perfectly symmetrical with the one on the right here. So I would actually look at even cropping them out altogether, because they're kind of just sort of there and they're not attached to anything. So maybe just going in a little tighter with your crop might solve that, and just make sure everything is in perfect symmetry. But yeah, neatly done, neatly conceived. And the fact that you even saw this and say, wow, there's a photograph here. Give us an 8.
Cell block.
Nice shot. I think this is what, Eastern State Penitentiary. I think it's kind of interesting. You know, it has this old ratty look, but then yet there's an exit sign, and I think that kind of adds a sense of difference. You know, from like, you know, it's not just your typical hallway shot where you walk down, you're looking down the hallway. You get this exit sign there, which kind of, you know, in one sense, it's kind of funny, particularly because it's like kind of a prison. You know, but you know, it's like, you know, where's the exit in a prison? You know, it's like, you know, you want to keep people in the prison. But it's really kind of neat. It adds to the story value of the photo. But it's nicely done. Nice. I love the, you know, the light of the skylights and the way it lights the scene and so on. Just really nicely done. Give us an 8.
Feather-shaped frond.
This is really kind of interesting because it's just really well done as a black and white. And then it's like a all in the background, you've got all this other stuff going on, and you've done it in such a way where it doesn't look too busy. It just, everything kind of goes on. And this kind of reminds me, if you guys know Mike Moats, who's a macro photographer, kind of looks like, you know, he inspired this. And yeah, it's just really neat because it almost doesn't look like a plant. It almost looks like a piece of architecture or a piece of art, but just really just super nicely processed and nicely done. I give this a 9.
Ships in port.
So what really got me about this image is the overwhelming scale of these ships to the people who are walking along there. You know, it's like they, you know, I mean, I'm not a big fan of cruise ships. I'm not a cruise type person. I don't, you know, I don't know if I could ever, you know, handle being, particularly after all the people with the COVID thing, you know, it's like makes it even more scary, but it's not my kind of thing. But the concept of how big these ships are just really shows us. And then add to it this kind of really neat composition where you've got, it almost looks like, you know, a street in Manhattan with skyscrapers, but they're ships, you know, you can tell because of the lifeboats. And it's just really a neatly conceived image. And the fact that you've got that nice sky in the background makes it even better. So just nicely done. Give this an 8.
Shopkeeper.
I like this. I mean, her look is just very much, it's expressive without being expressive. It's kind of like you see, like, I'm not really want my picture taken, but yet her personality is kind of showing through anyway. And the product is behind her and everything. I love the fact that you went sepia, but I think this image really needs a bit more contrast to it to really, I think it would really make it pop a little bit more. It seems to me like there's not really a white point in it, and there may not even be a true black point. But I think with that, playing with the contrast a little bit would really make this image pop a lot more. I'll give this an 8.
Old presses.
I like this. I love the composition of it. I love the yeah, I love all this old machinery and everything. And this looks like this place in Delaware. It's a museum in Delaware that has a bunch of these old machinery stuff. It was an old DuPont munitions factory at one point. But I forgot, the name escapes me right now, but it's neat. I think there's just the thing that's a little unfortunate about this is that window is just a little too bright. And this would be a great HDR shot. Not that you want to see what's on the other side of the window, but it's just so bright it kind of overwhelms the rest of the scene. But it's really it's neat, and as a high contrast image, I mean it's good. I just think it could be better. Just again, because my eyes just go into that white spot, but everything else about the image is really great. I love those old belts up in the ceiling, and I love all the stuff in the foreground there. It's really nice. Give this a 7.
Benediction.
This is okay. I don't know what that title means, but I really like this image. Just really, it has this, this like kind of light stick quality to it, or just really neat. And I like the colors. I like the angles. I like the black background. I like the little lights. I mean, they kind of make a neat sort of pattern, and then everything else is just a leading line that leads you into that pattern. Yeah, nicely done image. Give this a 9.
Magician and observer.
So what really works with this is the guy's like doing his thing, and you caught the card in midair, and you got this kid looking like, all right, what's going on here? Yeah, he just almost looks like the point of being totally bored. But yeah, like watching the card drop. I kind of wish in this one you backed off a little bit. We saw more of the card guy, because he looks really interesting, because he looks so disheveled. It's almost like he's just been doing this too long. He has shirts untucked. He just doesn't look like he's really totally in the character he wants to be in. But I kind of wish that would really add to the story of this scene, which is like, it seems like nobody's happy. Give this a 7.
Crusty homemade bread.
I like this. I like I like the fact you got the cut bread in the background. I like the shine on the knife. It's just really nicely done. The way you have a cut through the bread. Excuse me. You've got like that circular pattern in the top of the bread, which kind of acts as sort of this crazy leading line that leads you to the knife and into the background. Yeah, nicely done. Give this an 8.
Threatening crow.
I like crows are just weird birds, and those yellow eyes just make it even weirder. But I like this. Even though the bird's kind of in the center, you caught a great expression. You really have the eye nicely outlined in the and just all the detail in the bird's feathers is nice and sharp throughout. Just a really nicely done bird, particularly a crow, because like when they're in the light, you start to see the purples and the blues and the greens in their feathers that you don't normally see because they look just totally black. So nicely done. And again, your lighting wasn't that great, but you really made this work. Give this an 8.
Out for a stroll.
I like this. This has a real timeless quality to it. And even though it's not a decisive moment type shot, the idea that like something like that Cartier-Bresson would have done, the kind of street photography that he did in the 50s and the 60s, or even back into the 40s. But this has just such a wonderfully timeless quality to it. It could have been, it could have been done in any of those decades, or it could have been done yesterday. I mean, it's just really just nicely done, beautiful image, beautiful street scene, the bike leading to the person walking, leading down that alleyway, and the light, the way the light is, and the tonality is just really wonderful. Give this a 9.
Graceful in flight.
The fact that you caught this egret doing this like that at the perfect angle, you either have like a camera that shoots like 1,000,000 frames a second, or what. But I mean, this is just really an amazingly caught image. I mean, you've got the feathers of the wings in the perfect position, the legs, and even just the expression of the bird is just so wonderful. I just really, in fact, even you've got the bird just above that water line, which even kind of that little bit of like area just above the water line really kind of accents the bottom part of the bird, or the chest of the bird. So, well done. Kudos to catch something like this. Not an easy thing to do. Um, the only thing is the reflections. I mean, I would have maybe cloned some of that, kind of the sharp lines out of that, maybe. But again, that's just a really, really, really minor nitpick on an image like this. I'm going to give it a 9, because even with that stuff in there, the image works.
Please enter.
Nice interior architectural shot. Light is really beautiful in it, and the one thing that really makes it is the painting. It's like when you look at this image, if that painting wasn't there, there would be nothing to hold all this stuff together. Even though the colors are similar, it would have just been a hole in the middle of the image. But because you have that painting there, and the painting is very different in tonality than anything else, it really acts as a focal point, and it draws you into the room. Even though, and you may want to think, oh, you could have a different angle, could have gotten a little closer, whatever. But I think that just makes this image really, really work. Give this an 8.
Lunching in Palm Beach.
Nice street scene with that. You caught this moment. I mean, with this person in this crazy outfit with this hat and everything, and it really doesn't matter that you can't really see her face as good as I'd like to see it, because it's really about what she's wearing, not about what she looks like. The only thing that could have improved this image, and I don't know if you cropped it or whatever, or what's going on, but I would like to see her hand, her left arm, kind of ends at the end of the picture, but her hand is doing something. And it would be nice to know what it was she's doing, because there's an expression on her face that makes me want to know why that expression's there. And I think it's the answer to that is in what's going on where we can't see in the image. So if you crop that out, try it back in again and see if the image looks stronger. But it's really nicely done. Give us a 7.
Buddha temple monk.
This almost looks like you put this guy in a studio and lit him with a elaborate studio lighting, but when in all reality, it's probably just the way the light was, right? Because he's a monk. But the other thing I thought is really interesting is I never really think of monks reading books, and I don't know why, but here you got this guy reading this book. You just think like, they, because of the way they live their life, that they would have a scroll or a piece of parchment or something like that. But I just really, really like this image. It captures such a great moment. And, I mean, people who travel, there's all these pictures of, like monks doing this and monks doing that. But every now and then you catch this moment with the light, and it's really beautiful. And it's like one of those things where, I could nitpick the elbow being right at the edge of the image on the left-hand side, but I don't really think that matters, because the relationship of this guy reading the book and the light on his face is just so wonderful. I give this a 9.
Random thoughts.
So it is a really creepy image, and that's what kind of makes it, and it's kind of like, if the woman wasn't there, then and you just, if this is the same person who did that other abstract that had all those busy lines in it, um, if this woman wasn't there, this image wouldn't work because there's just a bunch of confusion in the lines. But when you put the woman's face in there and the way you process it, where she's all white and almost looks like she's sort of a ghost. Now all of a sudden this image like really is telling some kind of a crazy story. And again, I would recommend therapy for certain people who create stuff like this. But yeah, really, really nicely done. I think the one thing I would probably do with this is, is obviously a composite, is maybe you could position some of the lines or clone it away so that the lines aren't going over her eyes or her lips, because I think that would really make the person part of this image just stand out a little bit more. So I would play with that. I'll give this a 9. I mean, I'm sorry, 8. 8. I'm really sorry if you can. And
Okay.
sorry for the person who thought they got a 9. I apologize.
Sitting out the snowstorm.
I like this. It's just this little patch of color with this male cardinal just hanging out in the snow. And, you've got everything is just so flat and kind of lifeless, but yet by having the bird there, it's just really great. And your composition is really nice. I mean, you've got a bunch of busy branches. I don't know if that's a defensive thing, but these cardinals always like to hang out in the busiest part of the tree. But it works. I mean, I think it's the snow on the tree and just the positioning of your composition just really makes all this busyness work with this bird. So really just a nice, totally nice image. Give this an 8.
This water is cold.
It's a cool, the expression is what really makes this image. It's this guy, besides the fact that, guy's an interesting, his body looks interesting, his facial expression, he's got tattoos all over his back and his arms. So it's just kind of like there's a story where you kind of like to know a little bit more about this guy. The only thing, you've got it at an angle, and I think an image like this would be better if it wasn't at an angle. I think you may have been going for the diagonal and the waves, but because this is kind of, I don't want to call it street photography because it's not on a street, but it's that same kind of concept of, of a candid type shot like this. I would think, if he was straight up and down and more the way the angle should be on this, I think it would be a bit even a better image. But still nicely done. Give this a 7.
Skylight view.
Nice architectural shot. A lot of times you get dinged for your angles not being straight up and down in an architectural shot, but I think you did this on purpose because of the composition. So, what you end up is you have a bunch of these kind of triangular shapes, and they just work so well. Going black and white, great idea. Having, the roof where the skylight is being almost black acts as a great framing element. I love the shadows coming down from this. I like the way you have this steeple positioned in this image as well. I just think it's really just a super nice architectural shot. Give this a 9.
Cardinal in the cold.
This one I really like. In one sense, it's like, wouldn't it be cool if it was just a male and it was really bright red? But I think actually this being a female works really nice because the red beak is all you really need to kind of get the color going. But what I really like is the expression on the bird's face. You really caught it really nice. There's a lot of sharpness in the feathers and so on, which is great. Really sharp detail in the beak and the eye, which is what you're focusing on. And, I like the focus fall off in the background. I think it takes a distracting background and makes it far less distracting. If you were really into, cloning it out or whatever, I would, hang on, getting my annotation tool. This I would have probably cloned out if if you're into cloning and all that stuff. I know some people don't like doing that in a nature shot like this, but Yeah, again, it doesn't really, it's a really minor thing because I think this is a wonderful photograph. Uh, give it an 8.
One room schoolhouse near the, I'm blocked, so
Okay,
near
yeah,
the
don't worry about it.
farm.
Yeah, I know what it is. I get the concept. I like this. It has a very illustrative quality to it. And it's one of those ones where you made the shadow work. You forced that shadow into your composition. And and I like this. It almost looks like more of an illustration than it does a photograph. Um, I think it's really nicely handled. I mean, I look into the left-hand side, and even though it's really bright, you can see the sun there. I don't know if you rebuilt that. I mean, I do that a lot in my images where like that area of the sun is all burned out. So I just kind of recreate it. But it's just, yeah, really it just has a wonderful quality to it. The one little thing that I just find a little troubling is it looks to me like that building in the background, I guess it's a church, I think, if that's what was in the title. Looks like it's a little crooked, although I don't know because the horizon looks great. So I don't know. I mean, maybe that's just the way it is. But anyway, that, because of the way you chose to do this image, maybe playing with that in Photoshop and putting the church on its own layer and then rotating it might make it a little bit more even. But I really, really, really like this image a lot. It's just that one thing just I find just a little bit uh just a tiny bit bothersome, but it's really just it's I mean, if I could give it an 8.9 I would, but I have to give it an 8.
Give me a second, please. I've got stuck. Let's try this. Okay,
You got it. All right.
got it. Sukkah.
Okay. So okay. I like this. I mean, I like I'm Jewish, so I kind of certain Jewish holidays I really like. I always like sukkahs. And I like this. What I liked about this image is not that it's a sukkah so much as it's like I like the patterns that first off, whoever built it looks like this is like a really, really nice one. Um, but I like the way you photographed it looking up, and I like it. Yeah, I like the patterns that it creates and everything. And I do wish though you you got it at a little bit different time of day. And yeah, because I think it's just the light is just a little too harsh. I mean, I kind of like the shadows on the on the cloth, but I do think it's just the lighting's just a little too harsh. And I would either have gotten rid of the tree that's on the upper left hand corner. I would either position myself, tried another composition so that wasn't in it, or have gotten rid of it. But it's a neat image. I mean, I really, really like the pattern that you discovered in this. I give this a 7.
Happy in her new hat.
Just a great image. I mean, it's like, okay, I'm a sucker for little kids, but there's little kids portraits and there's little kid portraits. This is just really just nicely done. Her eyes are just like heart melters the way she's looking right at the camera. You got great catch light in the eyes. Um, Processing on this is really good. The lighting is really nice. You're working with some side light here, and the way you have her positioned, it just works really well with that side light. It's almost like backlighting. In that, I mean, I guess it is, but her back is not. It's at an angle to us, so it's like really the light is actually coming in from the side. But it's really neat, and you even like picked out the reason she probably really likes that hat, which are those like little flower decorations on the front. But just really, like where you just go into this kid's eyes, and it's just really, really just well done portrait. Give this a 9.
Pure happiness.
Just another, what this reminds me of is there's a Cartier-Bresson photo that he took. I think it was in Holland, where this little kid at the end of World War II is given a pair of shoes, and he's just so excited. He has the same kind of look on his face, and it's just really just super nice. But I have to point out something that is just unfortunate in this image, and that is you've got uh, can I draw right? Yeah, here we go. Right here, you've got a burned out highlight in her forehead. And that, whereas this is like a very impromptu expressive shot, you really got to you gotta realize that this is a portrait, and that is just, it's a distracting element, and it really just doesn't, I mean, there's no detail at all in her skin. And kids have such wonderful skin. So I think, that's you maybe play with that, or if this is someone do this all over again. um and then just watch your lighting, and watch where your highlights are. uh, I'm going to give this an 8 because the expression is just so wonderful.
Smoke is pollution.
So this is, sometimes you find a photograph that is, it has more meaning than it is a piece of art. And whereas I think there's a really nice artistic concept in this, the way that you saw this like mess and said, like, there's a photograph here. So kudos to that. Um, but it's a nicely done image in that way. It's nicely conceived. It's got a nice artistic value to it, but it also has a message, not just, smoking is bad for you or anything like that, but just the idea that, that people just, wherever this is, they throw their butts. And when you look, there's like nice patterns in this metalwork. This looks like maybe it's a storm drain or something like that, but it just doesn't look like the kind of thing you throw your crap onto. Um, the I think this image actually, and the only reason why I'm saying this, because you got some color stuff in there, like that purple piece of paper and that red piece of paper. I would try this as a black and white, and like a high contrast black and white. I think might even be even more powerful of an image. But it is, super. Now again, the fact that you saw it and took a photograph of it, kudos to that. Give this an 8.
Relaxing at the beach.
Neat shot. I mean, what really makes this more than just a picture of a guy sitting in a chair is those vertical lines of that fence. It just kind of adds a very artsy quality to it. I also really like your composition. I think it's a really nice idea that you put him on the left side and just had nothing on the right like that. I mean, you may have been tempered, to crop it a little differently to try and make it that, but you did it this way, and I think it was a really good decision. The other thing is that you've got those dark poles. You've got 3 of them, which really make a nice pattern, because you have that nice odd number in that. So again, well seen, well conceived image. Give this an 8.
Storm ready.
I like this. This is a great composition. Um, it's such a strong composition that the fact that you're probably could have done this at a better time of day uh, doesn't really matter so much. I mean, as you see, the shadows are kind of real harsh with this. I like this a lot. The only suggestion I could make of this is, like, maybe bring up the saturation a little bit more on the green wall and the light blue of the window frame, just because that shutter with the red and white diagonal lines is just so strong. I think making the rest of the image stronger would balance it just a bit more. But nicely seen, nicely composed. I'll give this an 8.
Cloudy sunrise.
So I like this. I like this. I like the fact that you went silhouette on this. I like the fact that you put the tree where you put it. There's a certain simplicity about this, and I like the sky. I mean, usually, I mean, I see a lot of stuff. I'm in a lot of like landscape photography, particularly in the Pine Barrens, like Facebook groups, and people love to oversaturate stuff because it gets a lot of likes on Facebook. So I applaud you for not going that route and making this image look a bit more realistic. I think it works, because I think if it was oversaturated, it would overdo your um it would overdo the what do you call it, the um the silhouette aspect of this. Anyway, I just want to do something here. Yeah, no, it's really nicely done. Give us an 8.
Raoul's.
I like this. You know, it's when you look at it as a scene, and I think I've seen this restaurant photograph before. I don't know if this is someplace in New York or whatever that people like to photograph, but I know I've seen this place before. I don't know if I've seen this image before, but what I really like about it is the fact that it comes to life with the people. So you've got these guys on the right that look just totally bored, particularly the bald guy with the yellowish colored shirt. And then you have this other 2 people on the left that look like they're involved in some pretty, they're involved in a conversation. So here you got these like 2 stories right next to each other, and probably none of these people know the other 2 exist. What I also like is the reflections in the windows up on the 2nd floor. I think that really kind of adds a nice painterly quality to this image. It's kind of almost looks, almost looks like a painting, although it's not. It's a photograph, and there's nothing that's been done to make it look painterly, but it just has that nice moment to it. Give this an 8.
Rope on a dock.
I like this. This is a nicely seen image, and I like the. I don't know if you played with the rope to make it look like this or whether you found it like this, but yeah, it's really, really nicely done. I like the pattern of it. I like the shadow in the left-hand corner like that, and the fact that it's just completely black because it mimics what's all going on the upper right. And to me, it's like it says, okay, this is not a picture of a piece of rope. This is an abstract image that I created. And so, so Mr. Judge, that's my message. And if that is your message, I receive it loud and clear. I like this a lot. I just think this is just a wonderfully done, wonderfully conceived photograph. I'll give this a 9.
Men at work.
I like this. I love the sepia quality of it. Hang on a second. Let me just do something here real quick. Yeah, okay, good. I changed sides to just make sure that the focus is right and everything. I like this image a lot. I mean, it's really very busy, but you got these guys doing stuff. And so you're kind of like, I think it's kind of neat. I really like the guy on the ladder on the upper right, and he's looking down like, what are these guys doing on the scaffold below me? I like this. It's, probably a modern image, but it doesn't, could almost get away with not being a modern image. And it works really well. What really works is that those streaks of light that are coming through on a diagonal, it almost like feels like they should be, wrong, but they're not. They just really, they work, and it just adds to all those diagonals. I think it's really nicely conceived image. Give this a 9.
A face in the crowd.
I like this. I think your focus on this really worked really well, where it's like the people in the background are kind of soft, but they're not so soft that you can't see their facial expressions. It kind of works. And then you got this woman in the foreground. Who knows what it is why she's scowling like that. I have absolutely no idea, and why she's holding that magazine. But it's just it's this interesting shot that makes you say, what's going on? You kind of see the story, and you kind of like want to make up a story because you don't know what the story is, but just, nicely done. And, again, a very busy scene that's nicely handled with slightly selective focus. Give us an 8.
Mop and bucket.
I like this. It's again one of those things like who thinks that a plastic bucket is photogenic, but yet in this environment, and the fact that you're looking down on it now, it makes the floor kind of, you've got that, the vanishing point or the converging verticals of the floor, and that corrugated metal wall. It just makes this work better. I mean, it works really nice. I think what might have made this image a little bit better is if it was a little bit more symmetrical particularly with the corrugated metal on the wall. If that was a little less leaning and a little bit more kind of some, just had everything right in the middle, and then that symmetry of those lines like rating out at a diagonal equally on each side, I think this image would be really super strong. But all in all, just very, very nicely done. Give this an 8.
Charleston Church.
Nice architectural shot. And again, I'm sure it's like the architect's concept was to put that stained glass window back there because it's a focal point when you're looking at this. And, as the photographer, you did a really good job with this. I think, the columns are nice, straight up and down. You've got a nice low angle where you're right at the tops of these pews. And, and it really, really just puts you right into this leading line. It creates a nice leading line into that stained glass window. I just kind of wish there was a little more saturation in the stained glass window. I think it would even make this image stronger, but it's just, yeah, nicely done. Image of a church. Give this an 8.
Okay. Hold on a second. We have 16 9s.
Wow.
Wow.
I did that to myself. What can I tell you? I mean, but then again, there's a lot of images and a lot of really good images.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Let me see if I can. We got a lot here.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna have to think about these. Can I get back to you tomorrow? Just kidding. Oh boy. Okay, I think I got it. So go through it one more time because I know
Absolutely.
it's 3. I just want to know which one's going to be first, second, and third. But
Sure, you got
I
it.
got my 3 that are. Okay. First place is the boy with the kite.
Okay, let's find him.
He's like 6 from the left, I think.
First place.
Yep.
Okay.
Second place will be the street scene with the bicycle, which is like right in the middle. It's a vertical black and white.
Okay.
And then third place will be that fern, black and white fern photo.
This one.
That one. Yep, that one.
Okay.
Again, these are all just wonderful photographs. I mean, they really are. They could,
Okay. So now we're on new contest. Best of year, class 2. Honorable mention. Extraordinary Latin, Dan. Once again, beautiful job. Unusual friends, Rich. Really nice. Young lovers, Dan again. Wow, Dan. Dandelion Center, Sandy. Really nice. Firefighters Pride, Bobby. Beautiful shot. Street chalk artist, Dan. Wow, you're really doing great tonight. Benediction, Bobby. Really nice. Graceful in Flight, Mario. I remember this one. Beautiful. Buddha Temple Monk, Harvey. Really nice, Harv. Skylight View, Dan. Wow, Dan. Happy in her new hat, Mario. Really cute. Rope on a Dock, Mario. Wow, Mario, you're doing great too. Men at Work, Dan, once again.
It's the same names over and over again.
Yeah, it is. Third place, Feather Shaped Frond, Dan, once again. Wow, it's Dan's night. Second place, Out for a Stroll, Dan.
I know. Not another sweep.
Looks like it. And first place, Kid with a Kite, Mario.
All right.
Wow. Okay, let me stop.
Well done,
sharing.
folks. Really just wonderful, wonderful photographs. It was really just great.
Okay,
You know, great seeing these.
Anybody that wants to unmute, please feel free.
Rich, on behalf of the Stonebridge Photo Club, I want to thank you for an absolutely mesmerizing evening. I think I speak for just about all of us. Your thoughtful, insightful comments. You really took pains to see each photo and appreciate the intent of the photographer. It was a great learning experience for every one of us. And you could write a textbook on what makes a captivating photo. So thank you so much.
All right. Well, no, I appreciate that. And it was, you know, really thank you for letting me judge this. This was really, it was hard. There's so many great images. So wonderful. Yeah, wonderful job, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.